Okay, so we are ready to do the final rough draft. And what I always do before I start on this final edit is I go back to the first original simple strategy. I want to look back over my ridiculous thesis statement, which, again, the reason this is a long essay is because I'm asking a huge question. How did this happen? An easier question might have been, why did this lose money? Why have none of them been successful? You know, things like that. But we went into how does this happen? So I want to make sure that everything in the essay relates in some way to this thesis statement, whether it's a socio-cultural detail that I've put in, the foundation information, tipping point, the spirituality that we went into. And I just make sure, because it's a long essay and I want to make sure everything's in the right place. Okay, so this should be that section. This is like the definition. All of that's laid out. Then we have the details, tipping point, spiritual theory, conclusion, and the afterword. Okay, let's take a look at the essay in its final rough draft form. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to look at it in multiple pages so that I can see how everything looks. Let me make this screen a little bit bigger so you can follow along. And what I do in here is I'm just looking for anything that's glaring. Pictures that got out of place. I'm going to be looking for enormously long paragraphs. This one, for example. Remember, I made the introduction into 3 paragraphs because it needed to be a section because it's a huge topic. Normally, if the topic were smaller and more narrow, I would be able to just simply have one introductory paragraph. But you can see this one's going to be too long. I've got to work on that, and I'll go back and check that. So what I do sometimes when I'm in this particular phase is I'll just highlight it, and that way I know I got to go back and look at it. Okay. Move things around if I need to move things around. Okay. I'm not going to show a picture of Malcolm Gladwell. Remember, all my images need to relate to the essay. I have to think about each image. Is it representative of what we're doing? These are younger people in Vietnam, so instead of including more graphic images, I included the need for brotherhood, which is the whole point of Woodstock. There's our wow factor, the graph. I like it there. I like it at the top of a page. I think it's easy for the reader to get back to see. A little bit. Okay. Again, I couldn't get a color image for that, so if you can't, you just can't. But you'll notice with most of them, the images are all consistent and they are all the same color scheme. This one I still really like there. I don't think it needs to be right. There we go. Scoop that down just a little bit. There we go. And there we go. I'm going to go, after we do this first check through, see that's a problem. This guy's in the wrong paragraph, so it needs to go here. All right. I'm going to just point out some key things when I edit, so you won't be going through the whole editing process with me. But I'll pop in whenever I have something interesting for you to see. Here's another one. Because of the changes, remember when we had the crisis with the whole thing falling to pieces, that fixing of that caused pictures to shift around, not as much as I thought they would, really. Okay. Get that there. Good. Okay. Oops. All right. And we're just getting the look of it right now. So far, the paragraphs are looking good. So far, they look like they're really... These guys. Okay. Couldn't, you know, they just had to have their pictures in there, but I just couldn't get a black and white. But then 2 pages over, we have a black and white, so that's kind of... And again, when you get those newspaper archives, you can't get a color picture. It's just going to... But this one was important, so that's when I do ask myself, was that important? Did that need to be there? So forth. Okay. And then I like the way in fixing the crisis that I moved on into the huger question, the bigger question, which is, this one looks too long, doesn't it? Look how long that paragraph is. Holy Toledo. Just mark that, and that way when I go through, I know I got to check that to see. The rainstorms. And as hard as it was to find all that information about the rainstorms, just wasn't that much more important to the justification of that spiritual side of the philosophy. Because how are you going to explain it? You've got 4 million people huddled together in a mass. 4 million people. Why didn't any of them drown? So I think that worked out well. This is a problem. His picture, well, we'll do like this. How about if we do this? Scoot it over right there. There, that gives the 2 announcers. These are the 2 announcers. So that gives them a nice little, all right. But I still, yeah, I guess they're even paragraphs. This one's pretty long. Yeah, that's just way too long. Okay, next. Come over here. And this is that one, remember, where I talked about the bridge as one of the inspired moments of how everything worked. And, of course, you couldn't expect the reader to look at this picture and know what they were supposed to see. So we added the red arrow. This is where they landed the talent because they couldn't get them in any other way. And then if the talent's way over here, how are you going to get them all the way to the stage? And that's when Henley came up with the bridge, which they built in like a minute. I have a problem with the size of the 2. Okay. We have 2 great big images together, don't we? Do that. I'm going to mark it. Okay. Good. This all messed up. See, this is where this is that part. Okay. So. And that's a big gap here, and I'm not sure how that happened. How do we have this huge gap here? Okay. See, when I do it like this in a big view, it's really easy for me to see these glaring things, and then I can go in and look at the entire thing and see what's going on there. Okay, I'll be right back. Let me just check this out. Okay, the gap is because this is the end of that paragraph, and the next paragraph started on the next page. So I propose that we just let that float. Yes, it's a black and white picture, but I just propose that we just put it there, and then the reader knows, because I want the reader to pause a second and read this information. It's not that much, but it's important for them to see the dynamic, the shift in the dynamic of how the security was handled. Very important point in the essay. Okay, so across here. Good. This is the stickiness factor. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Right? And I couldn't curve the edges of this too much because these are the square posters. I think it is curved, but all right. Okay. That's a mess, as we thought. Just as we thought. Not surprised at any of this. Let me find this. I'll be right back. Okay, this is the distinction between the 2 posters. And I think we're going to be okay there with that. Just a hair. There you go. All right. Remember, I loved this little graph. Do you remember when we did this? because a lot of times when moving into the realm of the spiritual, writers feel like they have to put something convoluted, complex, complicated, you know, that kind of thing to elevate the reader from what can be seen and measured on the earth plane to what can be less, is open to more interpretation on the universe plane. Universe, you know, that kind of thing. So I really love this. This just really, I felt like it was a nice, simple graph that just shows the reader this point and isn't too busy, too much. Good. Okay. All right. Nice paragraphs here. Aren't they nice? See how nice these are? And then we have this next little section, Theory of the Western Esoteric Spirituality. And now, because I started with this simple graphic, now I feel like the reader is ready to move on to the heavy side layer, as we might say in CAS, and see what's what there. Okay, so we've got a gap here. And again, this doesn't throw me because it happens. It always happens. I don't care if the essay's 2 pages long or this long paper. It's still, that's one of my favorite points. Remember, this is the one with the connect to dots thing, the physical principle of dots that connect, where, you know, you're so close to the picture you can't see. And then you're connecting dots, and then you realize you come up with that. I like that. I made that all by myself. I thought that was kind of neat. Okay, good. That looks good. Over here. Yep. And again, I hope when I go through, I've got to check on a few things. And number one, about the poster, because the poster is all we had. There wasn't internet, Instagram, anything. There were newspapers and a poster. So that's the reason that the poster came up, and I ended up taking it out 4 different places. So this is nice. Nice, simple, letting you know that they weren't always welcome. That's a nod to the opposition. Not everybody was saying, oh, this is awesome, this is fabulous, this is just going to be a life statement. This nothing like this will ever happen again. And this is a nice position for the opposition to be. And I thought that was a nice image. Speaks 1,000 words. I think her spirit is incredible, because this is during one of the huge rainstorms. And I think that's a nice place to put it. Okay. Oops. Okay. Sorry. Right. Good, good, good. This is the contrast. One other point of opposition is showing contrast. So when people say, oh, you know, the point is that it could never happen again. And people who might say, well, maybe, you know, they tried. Okay. This is one of the few things that we have indented. I don't like the way it didn't indent over there. So let's just mark this. I've got to fix it, because it should be a nice inset box that comes over here and comes over here with a nice indentation. It's going to be easy to fix. Just have to format that. There he is. Love that picture. And see how these they're nicely color coordinated, I think. And that one we did include one little, you know, one little pretty spirituality picture. I think the color scheme works really well with the rest of the essay, and it shows the numbers. You know, we're talking about angel numbers. So what is this a picture of? Angel numbers. So there you go. Nice picture there. Nice picture there. That was so hard to find and then get to permission to use. Oy. Okay. That's nice. Okay. And then we came down to the conclusion. That's awful. But it's right there at the bottom of this page. Okay, we'll just mark it. I'll go back for formatting later. And there's our conclusion. And then the afterword is where he goes. Doesn't it? Hold on. Okay, so in that fix, this got messed up, so, and that ended up over here, so I just cut that to a few. Okay, so that meant that this mess came over here. So you are over here. Let's just move the works cited way out of the way. Okay. You are there, and this, I need to move right. I still got that John Fogerty quote in there, so this is all right. And that one I ended on the March for Our Lives, and gosh, the things, the events of today, but I'm happy with it. Just going to mark this because, again, we got a big gap down over here. So I'll have to work on this a little bit. Okay, then we have our citations. That's not going to work, obviously. But there they all are in all their beauty. And remember that in EasyBib, I went to export, print as a Word doc, so that they all came out perfect. And when I edit, I'll go through and make sure that there's no repeats. Because sometimes when I added citations, I put the same one in twice just to make sure it got cited. So check that out. And I'm going to go ahead and add my strategy to the end here, because if it's going to throw something off, I want it to throw it off here. Okay, so for the essay that I submit to be graded, that's where the outline and everything is to be included, and then I'll make one draft without anything. That would be the draft that I would use. So remember, we've got two of these. We've got this strategy. Okay, that goes there, and then we have the detailed outline. I'll show you that in a second. So you remember this outline where we took the simple strategy outline and started filling in information and brought in the quotes and put them in where they were going to belong and that sort of thing. Okay, of course, he's out of there. That was the whole tragedy. So we can just remove that because that is not what happened at all. And just go ahead and do select all. And I'm just going to take it as it is. I'm going to copy it, go back over that final draft, and add it in there. And that's just it. Okay. I'll take out that little title page for the outline, though, because it's not the title page that we ended up using. So that's how we did the whole outline. Well, just do it like this then. Perfect. Okay. Darn it. It's a nice collage somebody did. I just couldn't get permission to use it, so I couldn't use that. Okay, now I'm supposed to put any notes at the bottom here. So I'm going to open up those little files that we had of notes. Remember those? In this folder that I created on the desktop. If you'll remember, this is where the notes are. So take all these. See if that'll do. See what happens if I try to do that. Because I had so many, I'm just going to add them as little Word docs that the instructor could open if they so desired. And then I have my total final word count, which is 20,892 with everything. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to read all of this out loud, and I'll come back in when there's something interesting for you to see that I want to point out. So I'm going to go back to the view, which is one page, and now I'm going to go and start editing, and I'll be back when I find something interesting. Pointing out one quick thing in this introduction that was too long, the first paragraph of the introductory section. Okay, so what I'm going to take out is this, because I wanted to insert myself into the thing, and I've already done that in the abstract. This really doesn't serve our strategy structure, so that's what we do there, and there you go. So it makes it it's still a long paragraph, but they're all connected. Okay, be back. I want to show you this little quote. It's on page 4. It's the last paragraph of the introduction section. Okay, I just want to point this out to you. Whenever I insert a quote, here's the quote. It is, however, of the very essence of the mystical experience that it is a penetration to a deeper level, the attainment of a greater, fuller, and more ultimate reality than is afforded by any other form of human experience. Okay, so, it what? I hate the word it, and I don't have to use it in this quote, so I'm going to fix this, and I want you to see the problem. As Edward Wingfield, one of the pioneers of the Western esoteric movement, wrote in his acclaimed book, The Philosophy of Mysticism, it is, however, okay, right? So I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to come back and show it to you. So just look at that just a second to see how it is as this. Be right back. See, I'm going to start my quote right here, and I'm going to add my own words here and take out both of these its. Be right back. Here's the fix. As Edward Ingwin Rotkin, one of the pioneers of the Western esoteric movement, wrote in his acclaimed book, The Philosophy of Mysticism, movement beyond the measurable earth frequency requires, quote, a penetration to a deeper level, the attainment of a greater, fuller, and more ultimate reality than is afforded by any other form of human experience. You see how much better that is? There's no it what. It is a word that means nothing. I try to take it out every single time I can. Okay, be back. And the transition sentence at the end of the introduction shows what the next big section is going to be, and that's the tipping theory, the tipping point. Sign of the times, the dream, masterful marketing strategy, link to immortality, the stickiness factor. All right? Be right back. A little word about redundancy. I am doing a check through the essay because I found that the word context was capitalized because I had capitalized the power of context as one of the sections of the essay. So what I'm discovering is that context is used over and over and over again, and I want to show you a little trick in Word where I highlight that, and I've done a search for and I look up synonyms, and it helps me to alleviate that problem. Now I'm over here, and you can see that I've been, I just navigation searched for. Now it takes me to the next one, and I can decide whether or not I need to use that or whether I can find a synonym. See, there I don't really need to use context. I can come down here to synonym and find a better word. Yeah? You see? Isn't that fun? It helps you avoid redundancy. Redundancy means using the same word over and over and over, like I've just been doing. One of the things I've always been told and learned and told other people is to avoid asking questions in an essay. For example, have you ever seen a rock concert? Okay, that's the wrong thing to put into an essay. Now, I broke that rule right here where we are in the section of the mavens, the people who are transmitting the knowledge and information. And the reason for that's right here. And just to back up a little bit and show you where that's coming in. Hold on. I want to show you where that question comes in. So we're in the law of the few and we're in the mavens. Okay, so information, information, information. And as I've told you before, I'm completely loyal to my reader. I want my reader to be entertained. I want my reader to be interested and to keep reading. And this is a lot of information that has been given from the tipping point about the mavens. Okay, so putting this question in right here, Dale Bell and first-time director Michael Wadley, shown above. Why would producer Dale Bell hire a novice? Okay, so that is intended as a way to make the reader want to know how. This isn't the exciting part of the essay where we get all up into the angel numbers and that sort of thing. This is the practical information that's laying the foundation. So I might lose a point for it, or I might gain a point for it, because I'm engaging the reader and enticing the reader to move forward rather than to go, oh, this is so much information, I'm just going to skip this. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I just wanted to show you that decision that I made. And I may change my mind in a minute. I don't know. I'm going to keep it highlighted because it is basically breaking a rule. I'll be right back. I know you were thinking a rule's a rule, so I fixed it. So I wrote, that film project would not have been possible without the visions of producer Dale Bell and first-time director Michael Wadley. So hiring a novice director was a risk that Dale Bell remembers to this day. That's the Dale Bell interview from YouTube, and that was the timestamp. So I know. A rule's a rule. I know. I'll be back. Here's another thing that I found that's an error. You can see that throughout the essay, every time money's mentioned, it's with the $ and the number. And right here, I was making a point, and I went $16 million. Okay, so I can't do that because I've already established a pattern in the essay. So I want to make sure that everything is consistent with what I had set out. All right, so that's just a little thing that I find when I'm doing the reading out loud. Remember when I showed you that this quote from John Fogerty was too wide? So the way that we do that is we just come in here like this, and then we have this little toggle up here. See, it's right. This little jigger. And we can determine where that margin goes so that it's nice and inset. See how pretty that looks? Nice little indented paragraph. It's one of the only ones that we have in the whole essay. Here's another thing I see. You see how the Times New Roman font looks here? And now see where it all goes, it has spaces between it. So that's got to be fixed. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that. Then I'm going to go up here to these headings. Okay, and that's going to mess it up for a second. But then when I go back and I reformat it, and I change that to Times New Roman 12. And then I go over here and I change it to double spaced. Now it's all fixed. Everything's all uniform and all looks nice now. Yay! Back again. Little punctuation error here. Look at this first sentence. Both young men in their 20s, trust fund kid John Roberts and artist Joel Rosenman were in partnership to create media sound in New York. Okay, so we don't need both. Just go like this. Young men in their 20s, comma, trust fund kid John Roberts and Joel Rosenman were in partnership to create media sound in New York. Little grammatical thing. The other little thing, this is a quote from Joel in one of the publications, and it was like an interview that was not videotaped, but it just goes like that. You don't need the first name. This is the paragraph that I flagged as way too long because I could see that it was, so this is that paragraph. It goes on like this. I didn't spend a whole paragraph on the bridge. That's why I put the image there and I made it just a little bit smaller. The point is to see the ingenuity of that. So this paragraph that's too long, I'm going to first take this out so I don't end up with it later since I'm fixing it now. Okay, so here's what happened. I put myself in there. I think, to my surprise, they did not get up and turn to start the race out. They looked at the stage. I might think, okay, so this is 3 sentences. The stage, I think they took the stage. Easy to fix. The picture showed a crowd that looked up to see the military arrival. Okay, I'm just going to make one sentence, take those out. They looked to the stage. There you go. See, 3 sentences combined into one short sentence, and that makes that paragraph nice and tidy. Okay, and this picture is just wreaking havoc. I've just got to play around with the picture, and I can make the picture a little bit bigger if I have to, a little smaller to make this all fit in there.